Clark Kent to Superman,
to Lois Lane and Lana Lang.
this week we are ranking the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
This is The Film Angle. Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
Let's get into it.
Bum, bum, It started really well. And
Yeah,
then it turned into some
I was
techno Superman thing.
I don't know if I was like losing the Superman theme a little bit at the end there.
No, I don't even know what that is anymore.
No, now I'm trying to put in. I'm trying to remember like the Man of Steel drums. Man of Steel like Hans Zimmer drums.
It's been like 10 years. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh
definitely.
man, I'm sorry. Good try though.
Thank you.
Well, if you guys haven't guessed it already, we are here today to talk about Superman, but specifically the Christopher Reeve legacy. Those original 4 movies that everybody kind of has a sort of a semblance of what those movies are and what they kind of look like. But have we all really watched them? Well, we have now.
Yes, yeah. It's something we kind of alluded to a little bit on the last episode that we didn't realize. We were pretty sure we had seen 1 and 2, and then when you actually come to watch them, you're like, I have not.
Mm.
And I think both of us had this, where it was like, I have not sat down and watched this all the way through properly. Like,
Well,
I'm very aware of certain sections. They played on the TV a lot, but I've never sat down and watched this all the way through, right?
And not just 1 and 2. I think like all 4 of these movies, I think eventually I recognized at least a scene from all of them. Even number 4.
Even number 4. Well, I'd be interested to know what scene that was when we get into it a little bit later. But for some of our viewers, they might be saying there are new cinematic releases, guys. Why aren't you going to see them? I think we missed the boat a little bit on F1. There's a lot of films coming out at the moment. We probably could have done Jurassic World Rebirth, but if I'm being honest with everyone, like the last 2 Jurassic World films, I really disliked. And I was so bored during the last one. I just couldn't bring myself to go back and spend money on another. I'm not there yet. And reviews are like middling. They're promising, but they're not dragging me to the cinema.
Yeah, they are mixed. But yeah, you're right. I didn't even see anything in the marketing or the trailer to kind of made me think, oh, we're doing something different this time. I think it's just going to be, big scary CGI monster run and hide, and maybe get a couple of MacGuffins on the way. So it's really hard. They keep chasing that original Jurassic Park movie, and unless I hear otherwise, I'm like you, not going to be rushing to see it.
Yeah,
it'll make $1 billion anyway.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And one of us has it in our box office draft, I believe, and I think it's me. Or did you? I can't remember.
I feel like we say this every time.
Yeah,
we need to revisit the draft.
we are going to properly revisit the draft soon because a lot of these films are actually coming out now. So maybe we'll spend a segment on a future episode just kind of looking back at some of that to see like where we are in terms of who's winning.
Sure,
I'm pretty sure at this moment in time it's me. But we'll get into it.
You might surprise yourself.
I might surprise myself. But yeah, so yeah, not really. I don't know. When we were doing the schedule, neither one of us mentioned doing Jurassic World, and I think that's telling. And both of us were like semi excited to actually like go and revisit the Superman films, right? Like the new James Gunn film is very interesting. I am excited, cautiously. And maybe we'll get into a little bit more of that later. But I was happy to kind of what I thought was revisiting, but turns out it was just watching them for the first time completely. So yeah, I was more excited by this than anything else, and I'm glad we did it, Chris. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it too. Yeah, these are movies that are kind of a part of, we said it before, a part of our childhoods in ways that we kind of didn't really realize. The iconography, and especially that comes with Christopher Reeve, I think especially, is is worth revisiting. And
Mm,
worth kind of having an idea of what that is. And I just also want to like see, potentially if the new Superman movie is going to be great, it'd be really cool to have a sort of like a foundation of where James Gunn seems to be inspired for by this new project. See what his, where his leaning is, and where he's, maybe see those little nuggets within the new Superman movie too. So yeah, context surfing.
yeah, he's very inspired by the original Superman movies. So I guess that takes us to the main segment of the show. I mean, our plan is to just kind of chronologically go through these films, our kind of experiences watching them, what we thought of them, and after that we will properly rank them. And our rankings, guys, may surprise you.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what yours is, Chris, but
no,
it may surprise
you've seen my first two movies rated on Letterboxd, but I have not rated the last two, which are probably the more interesting ones to rate. Yeah.
Somebody loves a quest for peace.
Show me them nuclear bombs, please.
Don't say that too loud in this current climate.
Yeah, this could age terribly.
This could age terribly. We need Superman. Chris, shall we start with the original Superman : the movie?
Superman : the movie, yep, 1978. And is this the first big superhero movie to ever be taken seriously? I feel like it was always a pulpy genre.
Yes. Would you say it was taken seriously?
Well, critically, I would think it was.
Yeah, it's definitely probably like the first superhero movie that had so much money thrown behind it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. We have some pretty major stars in this one.
We have Marlon Brando opens the movie,
yes,
giving one of the most charismatic performances ever known to cinema.
Yes, famously, Marlon Brando was just basically doing this for the money, and I guess fair enough in a way.
It was very well known at this stage of his career that he was quite blatant, that's what he was doing. He was doing his one movie a year big paycheck to keep the mansion going, and all of his other frivolous exploits. So yeah, it's another one of those. Why not open a big franchise with a snooze of a performance?
Yes, yeah, and he throughout the film calls it Krypton instead of Krypton.
Yes, Krypton.
Krypton,
yes.
Which he just couldn't be asked.
Look,
but the idea behind this film was to have like these famous people, your Gene Hackmans, your Marlon Brandos, and then have Superman be this newcomer that was Christopher Reeve, and basically surround him with stars to boost up this film. That was the idea.
It is interesting though. Like I can sort of see. I can sort of put myself into Marlon Brando's mind. Like, not that you could do that, because I don't think anybody could do that. But you're watching the movie, and it has the very first 20 minutes when we're on Krypton is it's very rooted in 1950s sci-fi sensibilities in terms of everybody's wearing foil suits. It's a little bit, floating heads. Everybody's talking like scientists almost, and I can sort of see it like. If I was Marlon Brando and I was on the set, maybe I would think this movie was going to be dog shit. There's because I mean, like even the original cast of Star Wars, we all know that they didn't have much faith in it when they were originally on set. So you can see why maybe. But then again, the guy was paid $3 million for this movie.
Yes,
I mean,
and to put that into whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Perspective, Christopher Reeve playing the titular character was only paid $250,000
across the first two movies.
The first two movies, yeah. But I mean, I guess in a way he was an unknown. He was a theater kid, Did you know that he basically did Juilliard with Robin Williams? Did you know that?
I do know that actually. Yeah.
That was so. I watched the Super Slash Man Christopher Reeve story documentary the other day. I did not know they were best friends. That completely passed me by. I'm not sure how it
Yeah,
did.
and there's a really remarkable story. I'm sure everybody listening kind of has some sort of base of knowledge of, Christopher Reeve and his tragic accident and his years
Mm,
dealing with medical issues as a fallout from that accident. But yeah, Robin Williams visited him in hospital, didn't he? Dressed and pretending to be a doctor.
yes.
Yeah. So and was the first person to make him laugh post his accident. So yeah, it seems like Robin Williams again proven to be like a really sweet person, as well as Christopher Reeve. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, it
What a
makes
dude.
sense that they're friends now, but yeah, it's still like a shock when you hear that. You're like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's crazy.
What a dude. What an absolute dude. I love Robin Williams. I was
Mm-hmm.
so sad when he passed.
Oh,
Anyway, we're off topic a little bit here. I guess, maybe. But yeah, Superman the movie. It's a special effects film, isn't it, at the end of the day? It was a film that they had been trying to make, and when I say they, it's Alexander and Ilya Salkind, who were the producers
sure.
of these Superman films. And director was Richard Donner. They were auditioning stars like Paul Newman and Clint Eastwood to play Superman
It is
before.
wild when you see the list of potential
Yeah,
Superman actors that I don't think any of them work.
a lot, a lot. But yeah, ended up going with a 26-year-old Christopher Reeve, relatively unknown, skinny as well. He put on a lot of
Mm.
muscle, going from 170 to 212 pounds of muscle. Now, as a
That's commitment.
that's commitment, but as a non-muscly boy myself, I assume that's good.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, you've put on like 30 pounds of muscle? Yeah.
I don't
Oh.
know pounds. I'm not a pounds guy.
Uh, it depends. I use whatever unit of measurement makes me feel better that day.
But with this film, obviously, yeah, it was massive. I think for me watching this film, I was like, oh, we are kind of going in that 2001 style where it's like slow and very not as slow as 2001, but it is quite a slow story, this first one. And they spend a lot of time wanting you to focus on the special effects, which are fantastic. There is no doubt. Like, obviously, some of them are a little bit dated now, but
Yeah.
you are pretty surprised by this film, I would say. Do you believe a man can fly? Yeah. Do you know what? It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for 1978. It looks pretty good. I can see why this would wow audiences. But I would say there was probably more of a effort on the special effects and maybe the story. And the story is just a little thin for me in this first film.
Yeah.
And I just feel it does take a little while to get going. I guess maybe Christopher Reeve, as you know, from modern day perspective, I'm waiting for him to show up. Maybe you're not, because he's not really a well-known actor.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really surprised that we don't get him until like nearly an hour into the film.
Yeah.
Uh,
I thought they were going to do like the Jimmy Stewart It's a Wonderful Life thing where it's like, we're still going to have Christopher Reeve play the teenage version, like Jock.
mm,
And you know what? I wouldn't have even minded that. I would have, I think it fits the tone of what this franchise becomes. It wouldn't have really bothered me. But yeah, you're right. It takes us a little while to get there, actually. Yeah.
yeah, it does. It does. But when he does come in, and we get a bit of a long montage of him just random acts of heroism, and I really
Mm,
appreciate that. I thought that was great. You get newspapers spinning and everything like that. I was like, oh, okay. This is what Sam Raimi was doing with the Spider-Man films. He was bridging the gap between like a Superman style film from the 70s with
yeah.
kind of modern day sensibilities. And I think that becomes even more apparent in Superman 2.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I get what I'm seeing now. The big scene from this that I remember is him reversing the world. I have seen that on the TV many a time.
Yeah. I always thought this was like from a sequel or anything. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
so
from the
did
first
I.
movie. Yeah.
And I believe it was added in as a late addition on a reshoot because they didn't think the ending fully worked. So, yeah, that moment of him being able to reverse time within the Earth is a bit of a bit of an extra tidbit. They were like, this just isn't working. Let's throw
Yeah.
something more spectacular at it again. Which, in a way, kind of like there are a lot of powers that Superman has that are just kind of like flung in convenient moments. But
Yeah.
this one, you're like, well, I guess nothing matters now.
It becomes a problem perhaps later on in the franchise when you're like, dude, you're getting beat up now. Like, just do the thing you did in the first movie. get angry again. You were good when you were angry.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think what it has going against it, and I don't think it's any fault of the movie, but it's something you can't really ignore in the year 2025, is that, you have seen this before. You're seeing literally the foundation, the vanilla original recipe version of the superhero story, the alter ego and the concealing one's disguise, the love interest, the heroism, like you mentioned, but it's at its most like sort of simplistic. So unfortunately, there's not really much room for like intrigue as the viewer because you kind of know where this is going to go. It just, the ride has to be fun, and the ride still is a lot of fun. I wasn't I was a bit more surprised by the franchise in general, by how kind of low stakes everything feels, even though the stakes are quite big. It just, there's such a light foot to this sort of franchise in general. It's very bubbly. Yeah,
it's very cartoony, which is what I got. Like,
yeah,
like even Lex Luthor is very. He's a cartoon villain, you know.
Yeah,
it's him and his cronies. All they're after is real estate. It's this weird thing. That's what he really wants, is real estate, and he's willing to nuke part of America to build some of it. And even in Superman 2, it's all about, I want Australia, I want to develop land. It's such a weird. I mean, like, the films do have a lot to say about capitalism and greed, which I must say, some of the political aspects, especially in 4, I was not expecting. I think there's a lot of parallels to kind of what's happening modern day, which makes you realize that these kind of same issues were being had in the 70s, and either not much has changed or we're just going around in circles here. But you're right. It's a very slight film. It's a very slight film. I find this first film is trying to find its footing. It tries to play some things quite seriously. It tries to do the sci-fi thing, which it does. But then it's almost this kind of slapstick romance film between Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit about Margot Kidder, maybe, and her performance as Lois Lane. I find her in the first film slightly irritating, but I really like her in 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I think I kind of got more fatigued with her as she went on.
Interesting.
But yeah, she is quite cold. She's quite cold to begin with Clark Kent. She becomes a friend to him quite soon. But yeah, it's almost like she's looking through him all the time. And like, I know that's part of the thing of Clark Kent. That's part of the genius of Superman, is that he is, the whole fumbly Clark Kent nature is an act, and it's a really good act that he plays, which makes that such a great performance from Christopher Reeve. But yeah, I thought my preconception of what a usual romantic archetype for this sort of story was kind of subverted. I wasn't expecting how cold and shrill she would be. But yeah, you do get used to it. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that the films don't dumb her down or anything like that. She is smart. She is capable.
She's top of her game. Yeah,
she's top of her game. She is a Pulitzer-winning prize winner. You're like, absolutely. She's an independent woman. They make her a little bit like kind of like klutzy, but not in the same way that Clark is, but just in kind of, she just finds herself in dangerous situations all the time. Like, she's constantly like that. But I think, her and Christopher Reeve, like, some of their scenes like are some of the best in the franchise, even in 1 here. Probably more so in 1, because he's really kind of pushing the boundaries of like, how do I differentiate myself from Superman, and kind of I change my posture and my speech pattern and my kind of dynamics. Like, he is fantastic. Like, he is truly fantastic
Mm-hmm.
as Clark Kent, and transitioning between these two characters, to the point where like there's something about his face even where I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I get why people don't see it, because like felt like his face shape almost changed a little bit. I appreciate he's wearing glasses, but there's
Yeah,
just something about it. He really does morph between the two characters,
he
and
does. He does. I would have, like I'm watching. I'm like, I actually think he's more handsome as Clark Kent.
well,
But
yeah,
yeah, he's
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 not got the like the little curl and stuff like that. Like he's just a dude,
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he fumbles around in almost
clumsy
like
dude.
a silent film sort of like performance in a way sometimes.
Yeah.
He is, but he is fantastic. I do love, I think my favorite sequence in this film is the first flight with him and Lois Lane. And I
Mm,
do think that it is potentially, it could be a schlocky moment, a very overly schmaltzy moment. Margot Kidder even has like a voiceover poetic moment there. But there's just something so magical about like how that flight sequence is conceived. The John Williams music is
mm,
stunning. I mean, it is really. I mean, we all know the main thing, but getting to hear it in its entirety, watching this film, all the strings and orchestrations, it actually evokes kind of more of his work on ET quite a lot for me
yeah.
a lot of the time. I love that classic Hollywood sort of sound.
It's
Um,
so good.
it is
I
so good.
Also, I don't know if you found this. You've watched this in a shorter space of time, so you're probably still in this. But I can't stop humming it. I
Oh,
think I've watched
dude.
these 4 films over 2 weeks. I think you've watched these 4 films over one. I just can't stop. I can't stop humming it everywhere. I'm going up and down the stairs. I'm like, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun. I just can't stop.
And every time that bit of music is used, and it's usually like a moment. I don't know if it happens in the first movie, but it certainly happens in the rest of them, when Superman maybe is kind of down on his luck in a fight, and he emerges from something like,
Mm,
and then it goes bum 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 bum, and he's gonna come back hard here.
yeah.
Those moments are absolutely excellent.
John Williams, man, he's just like the best. There is no doubt
And
about
it
it.
wasn't
He's
even
just
supposed to
the best.
be. Yeah, originally we're going to have Jerry Goldsmith compose the score, but I think he was either too expensive, or he was just completely out of schedule at the time. But yeah, I mean, it still worked out amazing. I mean, both of me is two of the best composers of all time. So either way, but we wouldn't have that iconic score that we have today. And there's a reason why, like, John Williams never fully comes back for the rest
Mm,
of the movies, but it's you can see why they just build on his original score in every
yeah.
version. Why change it?
And even now in the James Gunn film, we are getting a score that is riffing off of that. I
The
think it
trailer,
is
yeah.
doing slightly its own thing with it, but it's using that original melody by John Williams. And at first, like before we did this rewatch, there was part of me that was like, "That's lazy. Like, make your own." And a little bit of like nostalgia bait, but I kind of get it now. Now that I can't stop humming it, I'm like, "Oh, that is the Superman song. That is the music." I can see why they're rehashing it slightly for this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think the music in a way evokes a potential that all the movies have. That
Mm.
I do feel like there's at least two of these movies that we'll get into later that I love, but I do feel like they never quite reach what they're capable of. And I think that there
Mm.
is a Superman movie out there somewhere that is just going to completely encapsulate everything that I love about even the score, and I think emotionally wrapped up. I'm
Mm.
always just kind of like having a nice time with Superman, but I'm
Yeah.
never like, oh my god, I'm enthralled. I feel so emotionally overwhelmed by this experience, and I feel like there's a potential that I could be that experience too. Don't know if
Mm.
you feel that way, but
Potential. There is
mm.
definitely a
It's an
potential.
unreal, because you're dealing with somebody who's borderline invincible, of course, except
Yeah.
for kryptonite. So it's a hard well to kind of manage, isn't it? Yeah.
He's a difficult character, there is no doubt. But there's so many different avenues you can go down because of that and because of his humanity. But we'll get into our thoughts on the future of Superman near the end of the episode. Shall I move on to Superman 2?
Go for it.
I was about to say famously, but I don't know if it was famously because I wasn't aware of this. But they filmed Superman 1 and Superman 2 pretty much back to back.
Cool.
But there was a bit of a falling out with Richard Donner. He kind of finished 2/3 of the film. He paused, as in 2/3 of Superman 2, and then paused to complete Superman 1. But then he kind of clashed with the Salkinds over budget and creative control, and he ended up being replaced by Richard Lester, who is the technically official director of Superman 2. He reshot a lot of it, and he completed the remaining scenes. And there was a bit of a fallout because of this. So, like, Christopher Reeve wasn't particularly happy that Donner had been kicked out. Neither was Margot Kidder. A lot of the crew didn't return because of this as well. They just thought he had been mistreated. But obviously, some of them were, on contract to have to finish these 2 films. But yeah, here we go. We have Superman 2. It's also a box office smash like the first one, and it's said to have had a slightly lighter and more humorous tone. But for me, I feel like it kind of is Superman 1, but just like the pace is there, and we are completing a story that feels like it was set up at the start of Superman 1. Like, part of me can now see why, and for anybody who hasn't seen these films, this is the film where we first get to have General Zod and his cronies come to Earth, and they use the same powers that Superman has, but for bad. And I can kind of see why when Zack Snyder came to do Man of Steel, he was like, well, these 2 films should actually be one here, really. Like, we almost don't need to worry about Lex Luthor immediately. Like, actually, it makes sense to have this sci-fi and this kind of Krypton story become full circle with Superman having to save this new planet from the bad guys of his previous planet. Like, I think that makes sense. It's almost made me appreciate Man of Steel more a little bit. And I must say, I'm not a Snyder DC fan person, but I do really like Man of Steel. Everything after that, pretty much trash. I physically hate Batman v Superman. Like, it really, just like.
We're fans of that. We're Aquaman apologists on the show.
You're Aquaman apologists. Yeah, sorry. I just meant like the Snyder.
Yeah. Sorry, the Snyderverse. Yeah.
I have a really bad reaction whenever I see Batman v Superman. It annoys me. But Man of Steel,
movies are ugly. Yeah.
But I think he gets it. I think Man of Steel is a really good Superman film.
I agree. The first half of Man of Steel, I was like, oh my, this is kind of something that kind of borderline special. And then it lost itself for me pretty quick, second half of the movie. But yeah, I do see its potential too. Yeah.
I can even forgive Superman killing at the end of that film, and I know that's crazy, and people are going to say my opinions are trash now. But I can see. I think maybe he needed to do a little bit more to make it seem more like it was the only way. But
yeah,
I kind of get it. And I think if we properly lent into that in future films as to why he doesn't why that shouldn't be the way out, I think they would have made for a better series. Anyway, we're not talking about Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel.
I feel like you want to talk about Man of Steel.
It does, doesn't it? God, it makes me sound terrible. Superman 2. I really like this one. I think this is a thing with superhero films in general. Once you get the origin story out of the way, you can just kind of hit the ground running. We're straight into the mix. Superman stopping terrorists in Paris. We're having a good time.
Yeah,
we know the formula. We know the Clark Kent, Lois Lane formula, but we start to dig into that a little bit more in this film. And Lois Lane uses her smarts to figure out that Clark Kent is Superman. All right, there's a couple of stop starts on that, but when she finally figures it out, it's almost like this sigh of relief. Like, it makes sense. Everything makes sense in its place. And we get to kind of see that really Clark Kent wants to live a normal life. And whilst he's trying to figure out how he figures this whole relationship out with Lois, General Zod just blowing shit up on Earth. And he's not fully aware of it until he turns himself into a de-superpowered person, a normal human being. And all of a sudden, on the TV, Zod's there.
It's
I guess I
pretty.
have.
It's
It's only been
terrible
an hour.
timing.
Terrible timing. I've spent an hour as a human. I've been beaten up by somebody in a cafe or a diner, and so I best go get Superman back and save the world.
Yeah,
But in a really cool way. There's like some pretty heavy destruction in Metropolis. Some really cool stuff with the way that they figure out that Superman's weakness is kindness and humanity. So let's just start trying to kill some humans, and that distracts him and all that kind of stuff. There's some really good stuff going on here. I was going to say New Yorkers, but the Metropolisians.
Metropolis. Yeah,
The Metropolis. I wanted to say Megalopolis then.
Yeah,
The Metropolians.
yeah, I guess so.
They gang together to kind of try and fight Zod at one point.
The Sam Raimi part again, right?
I wasn't aware. Just how much this is Spider-Man.
No one told me this. Yeah.
But I've kind of gone on a little bit here on Superman 2, but I did really
it's
like
good.
this.
I mean, this might be a little bit of an echo chamber for a minute because I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I think everything you said is correct, Alex. I think it takes foundational characters that we were introduced to in the first movie and expands on pretty much all of them in positive ways. Lex Luthor is so much fun here. This is almost like a Wes Anderson Gene Hackman that we get here. He's a lot more. He was giving me Dr. Evil vibes a lot of the time. I know it's not just because of the bald cap. It's but just in terms of like the dynamic between him, Otis, his little henchman, and Eve Tessmacher. Yeah. Forgive me if I butchered that. So like, and just Lex's like selfishness is a little bit more blatant this time and a little bit more cartoony, but it works really well. And I feel like Gene Hackman's just having a lot more fun too this time around.
He works so much better as like a secondary villain, I think.
100%. And I enjoyed. I did feel like in the first movie, whenever Lex's scenes came out, because they were so expository, I did feel like I was switching off a little bit whenever those scenes came on. Here I was excited to see Lex and Otis come back on the screen again. And I would say it is a funnier film than the first. I know you said it's kind of similar, but I did laugh a lot during this movie. At the expense of Zod, Ursa, and Non. I think it's such a cool idea. How many times do we get aliens come to planet Earth and they know the status quo straight away and they just want to destroy everything? And I like the way as soon as they come to planet Earth, it's evil via curiosity. They have no idea how Earth operates. The vulnerability of humans really intrigues them. Even the little cars or radios that they use, they just want to see, what happens if I point my laser at this guy? Will he scream? Will he blow up? I really like the just sort of the benign, maliciousness that just comes out of that. That is so fun to watch, and their dynamic's really cool too. So and then well, take me to your leader. It's the president. Well, take me to see your president. I want to speak to him. And then Lex comes and joins in the party. And this is what I find really fun about Lex Luthor is that he always underprepares. he always thinks he's the intellectual better of everybody. And I guess he is sort of smart to some degree, but he never knows how to see his plans through. He is just, he forgets that people you can literally fire lasers out of their fingertips is who he is bargaining with, and he always loses the bargain. So that's a lot of fun. The movie's just great. I mean, there's the visual stunts here. Whenever the three of them wreak havoc in a small town, throwing cars around, like Ursa has an arm wrestling fight with a sexist man in the bar, and then breaks the table. It's all fun early 80s comedy shit that I love.
they have a lot of fun with the superpowers. They have a lot of fun with the special effects once again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just and again they bring in some like more weird powers of Superman. They don't fully explain the whole like humanizing him and then kind of being able to bring his powers back with this device that's in the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
Like none of it gets explained. At what point he rips off his emblem and throws it at them and it turns into like cling film, like super sticky cling
Yeah,
film.
yeah, it's
Like
a famous Family Guy moment too. They make fun of that. Yeah,
yeah, like there is so much silliness in here, and I think it probably does only get sillier from here on out.
yeah, but it kind of makes you like cheer a little bit. You're kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is so fun. I mean, it just the pacing of it is non-stop, and I think it does marry well enough with the stakes.
Mm,
Um, I really care about Superman this time around a lot more. I love there's a bar scene where a diner scene where him and Lois are kind of celebrating him becoming Clark Kent for good, and they come across a guy in the bar. He's an asshole. He seems to like basically haunt the diner,
yeah.
and he threatens. Well, he basically tries to hit on Lois, and Clark's like, "Right, me as a human man now, I'm going to stand up for myself and stand up for Lois." And he gets absolutely the shit kicked out of him, and it's actually quite sad because I just think it's the performance from Reeve. He just plays the vulnerability so well, and it's kind of
Mm.
like, what have I done? What have I done right now? It's like I've lost myself, and it's kind of sad as well because Lois kind of turns her back on him a little bit in that moment, going like, "Oh, I liked you better when you were strong."
Yeah, yeah.
I was disappointed in her there.
Yeah, I don't think that stuff does like it. They don't fully capture what they're trying to say there. Like you're right,
Hmm.
it feels a little bit like, oh, Clark Kent isn't super without Superman. And I think when we go into Superman 3 in a minute, I think that's where they're really trying to play with that
Sure,
relationship. And
sure.
I actually think they do a lot more justice to that relationship in Superman 3 than they do Superman 2. And maybe that's why I actually like Superman 3 quite a lot. But actually, it's one of the main reasons I like Superman 3 a lot. But I mean, actually, sure, I have one thing to say about Superman 2
Yep,
before we move into Superman 3. I really dislike the amnesia kiss powers. At the very end,
that's a disappointing way to
we
end the story.
return to
Yeah.
the status quo. Clark Kent kisses Lois Lane and wipes her memories. She doesn't know that he's Superman. The status quo is back to how it was. And you know what? That's so boring. That's so boring to me. It
It's very
worked so
boring.
much better when she knew. Like everything just kind of worked. That works, but
Yeah, it is really disappointing considering that like there is a trajectory from Superman 1 to Superman 2 with them two,
mm,
and you could have really made it a really awesome trilogy. I think it almost kind of writes itself, the dynamic of their relationship progressing from here, and I think I could have made the stakes more interesting for them and their characters. But yeah, it's a bit, it seems a little bit lazy and a bit scaredy cat to kind of see what they did at the end of that movie. Of an otherwise really fun movie, it was a little bit deflating for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
It feels like modern day Supermans, like your Snyder ones, your TV shows, even your James Gunn one just seems to be like, Lois knows. Let's get that out of the way. She
Mm-hmm.
knows.
Yeah.
Um, she's smart. It doesn't make sense that she doesn't know. And I appreciate that more, I think. I think
Yeah. There's that scene where she works it out at Niagara Falls
mm,
where she throws herself into the river. And it is so good actually because Clark knows that he's being challenged here. She's like, right, she knows that Superman's going to save her, right? I'm going to try my best to just save her as Clark Kent, just
mm,
to conserve my identity as much as possible. He does throw a couple of Superman tricks in there with using his breath to blow some twig, so she can grab onto. But that subverted my expectation in that moment. I thought he was literally going to run away and come back as Superman, and that was really cool. And you're
yeah.
right, she's very smart, and the movie plays that so well. It's just a shame at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a shame. And I don't mind. Like, I do like that kind of like trying to conserve your identity. I think maybe the Marvel films don't do enough of that recently, where it's just like everybody knows it doesn't matter anymore, like who you are. Like, I do like a little bit of that, like cat and mouse. Like, oh, how's he gonna get out of this one?
It
Um,
dehumanizes because superheroes, a lot of them have origin stories, so a lot of them were regular people before.
uh,
So, as soon as you put them in they're in a cape and they're in a suit, but their face is visible, they kind of lose their humanity. I mean, they can't just go to the supermarket anymore. They can't just go to the sea. Maybe and we never really have an idea of what their lives are like, and that's what makes like Superman and Spider-Man very interesting, because it's wrestling that, like, no, these are people and they want to kind of have lives outside of saving people, but it's the wrestle between responsibility and relationships, and yeah, I mean, it makes it way more interesting. The stakes are way
Definitely.
higher.
And like you could still have that with other characters and Lois being a part of that, of trying to conserve his identity. But
Yeah, but the
there you go.
Avengers, you just kind of think of them like, you don't think of them outside of the scenarios that we see them in. You don't see them.
Mm,
I don't think of them like they're almost like Overwatch game characters or something. They all just sit in like some big penthouse and play video games. I have no idea who these people are outside of all
yeah,
of this
like
shit.
Captain America doesn't go to the shops and he doesn't have an
No,
apartment. Well, I guess he does, but whatever. We're getting away from ourselves. Should we get in Superman 3?
Superman 3. Okay.
Superman 3. So Superman 3 was pretty much like rushed into production as soon as Superman 2 was a success. But there was the pre-production on this film was a little bit of a mess. They didn't know what they wanted from the film. And early development had this as a very sci-fi heavy. They wanted to go down a Superman versus Superman route involving Brainiac. And I think it's Mr. Mixelpix. Are you aware of this Superman villain? He pops up every now and then. He's got a really difficult name to I'm going to say to say, but
Sounds
to
like
read.
a Toy Story villain.
Yeah. So this is how the name is spelled: MXYZPTLK.
Yeah.
There is a way of saying it. They wanted Supergirl in there, but the studio said it was too science fiction heavy, and they scrapped it. And they pivoted towards a more comedy based film. And it was on a late night TV show that Richard Pryor basically said that he was this massive Superman freak and he would love to be in Superman. He loves Superman. So they reached out to him and asked him to sign on and play. I guess I don't want to say villain. He kind of stumbles into it, but he's the main antagonist in a way, which is Gus Gorman. Richard Lester returned to direct the film. So the reason that Margot Kidder as Lois Lane is only in this for like 2 scenes, or at least the story goes, I think there's been a little bit of questioning as to whether this was the case, but potentially the reason she's only in 2 scenes is because she was quite vocal about Richard Donner's firing. So they severely slashed her part in the film.
They punished her. Yeah.
They punished her. She later said that it was more to do with the fact that we'd seen Clark and Lois a lot, and like we didn't really need to go into that any further. However, they replaced her with another love interest, played by Annette O'Toole, who's just called Lana Lang. So I'm sorry, where we go from Lois Lane to Lana Lang?
Is that comic book origin, or is that just literally they made that for the movie?
Do you know what? I have no idea with this one. I have no idea. I didn't actually research that to see if that was somebody. Should I have a look?
Yeah, go for it.
Lana Lang. No, apparently she did appear in DC Comics, so it's a comic book thing as well.
Oh, thank goodness they had that to fall back on.
Yes, it feels a bit silly. But there you go. But yeah, this film is very strange. Gus Gorman, who I'm pretty sure is a character just made for Superman 3, played by Richard Pryor, is essentially kind of very Jar Jar Binks coded. He kind of accidentally falls into these kind of things. He just so happens to be very good at programming computers. He falls into that. He does some stuff with that to give himself some money.
So the thing is, he's supposed to be terrible at everything, but for some miraculous reason, he is good at this. Yeah.
Yes.
And he doesn't even know why he's good at this. His fingers just started typing and he just suddenly knew how to code.
Exactly. And his boss, the higher up, ends up hiring him to, change the weather with computers and build like massive computer systems. Superman keeps getting in the way, so we now need to kill Superman. Well, we know about kryptonite, so how do we use a computer to kind of create our own version of kryptonite? But we don't make a particularly strong version of kryptonite. We create this kryptonite that just turns Superman into a bit of a dick. And even then, like, I don't want to say like evil. He's definitely not evil Superman. He's just like a bit of a jerk Superman.
Yeah, he's a Superman. You just like you're walking down the street with coffee, and he'll slap it out your hand.
He's just doing things for the sake of it. Like, I think the worst thing he does is causes an environmental disaster by punching a hole.
It does escalate. It escalates.
But most of the time, he's just sat in a bar blowing bottle caps into mirrors and windows.
Yeah, he'd be the sort of guy who turns up at a kid's birthday party and dries up the swimming pool. Like, it'd be things like that.
Yeah. Oh, and he immediately tries to end up. I think it's not Miss Tessmacher, is it? But it's somebody.
Lorelei.
Yeah, that's it. Calls him to like
played by Pamela Stevenson, Billy Connolly's wife.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Did you know Larry Lamb turns up in this?
Dude, the very end of the movie, he's like an extra. He's like he plays one of the construction guys.
Yeah,
I was watching. I was like, is that Larry Lamb?
Yeah, he's in the first film as well as an extra. I guess. Did they film a lot of this one in England? I'm gonna say maybe they must have done a little bit because he was in the UK a lot. Yeah, because a lot of it was shot in Pinewood, so maybe this one was shot in Pinewood as well. So just using kind of the actors that are around in the UK.
Because Jim Broadbent is a small performance in this too.
Yes. And who's the uncle in Harry Potter? Uncle Vernon.
Richard.
Richard Griffiths.
Richard Griffiths, yes.
He turns up in Superman 2. He's one of the terrorists
on the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. So we get jerk Superman. And the Clark Kent story this time is he's going back to Smallville. Ma and Pa Kent both dead. We saw Pa Kent die in the first film. They get like one scene. I was really surprised that they're like one scene in that film where he goes like, "You got to be a good guy, Superman," and now I'm having a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Very surprised at their lack of use within all of this. Again, another thing I think Man of Steel capitalized on. And potentially they're both alive in the new Superman film, so that could be an interesting.
Yeah, it seems that way.
But he goes back to a school reunion. He sees how everybody's grown up. He gets to meet Lana Lang, who is somebody he supposedly had this kind of romantic interest in when he was at school. She has this kid, and she also has like this guy who like wants to be in a relationship with her. He used to be, I guess, probably one of the cool kids who's now just a bit of a drunk and an asshole.
His introduction's funny, where they have yearbook photos around the hall, and he's standing beside his, and he's just guzzling down a whiskey beside his yearbook jock photo, it's very funny.
Yes, it is great, and Clark Kent is the one who kind of woos Lana Lang. She falls for Clark Kent more than Superman. He's good with her kid. He rescues her kid at one point. He's stopping this guy from being too much of a jerk to her. He's kind of building up some hope for her to come to Metropolis to capitalize on her dreams of getting away from Smallville. And I think this film does a really good job of showcasing that Superman would not be Superman without Clark Kent. And I think that is exactly why when we get to the scene where you have jerk Superman and versus Clark Kent, it's not a good versus evil Superman. It is jerk Superman versus Clark Kent, and Clark Kent wins. Yeah. Clark Kent is what makes Superman super. And I was really emotionally moved by this in this film. I think they get that dynamic completely down. I was digging that stuff. Like, I was honestly digging that stuff so much.
Sure.
I loved that dynamic. The special effects here probably aren't as good as 2, but they're still pretty decent. You get some really cool things happen. There's a lot of silliness. Like Richard Pryor skis off of accidentally skis off of a
Yeah.
skyscraper at one point, just lands on his feet. Like there's a lot of just like silly stuff. But I guess as well,
Yeah.
you're getting somebody. Richard Pryor was a comedian. You're getting comedy stuff here. You're getting slapstick stuff. The whole opening of this film is like a homage to like Chaplin and Keaton. Like
Yeah.
there's weird kind of slapstick kind of stuff of like, how
Feels
do
like a
we get
John Hughes
here?
movie as well at the start. Yeah.
It's so silly. And do you know what? I love this one. I really love this one. I think there's so many good moments. I think they are quite ballsy with some of the weirdness, but it's like how they're trying to portray the kind of dual personalities of Superman. I think that the way that we are really encapsulating this idea of like fear around computers
Hmm.
within the 80s, and like we don't fully understand them and we're a little
Oh,
bit
it definitely
scared
comes
of
across
them.
as like they don't understand computers.
Yeah, like we're not there yet. Like this is a little bit like where they are with computers here is probably like where we are now with AI, where we're just a little bit like,
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
yeah, because they essentially at the end of the film create a supercomputer, which is the entity from Mission
Yes.
Impossible.
That's an
And
interesting parallel. It does feel like this movie is produced and directed by people, old men who are scared of technology. Definitely.
100%. But then also through that, we're also looking at how, um, these big corporate companies do not have your best interests in mind, do not have your workers' interests in mind. Like they
Mhm.
completely use Richard Pryor to do all this stuff for them, but they're not willing to pay him. They're not willing. He's just small and insignificant to them.
Oh, there's no
Um,
prospects for him. As soon as they're ready to throw him away, even kill him. If
exactly, and
yeah.
and he has to learn this throughout the film. He puts his trust in people so easily. He puts his trust in kind of hierarchy and corporate culture. And then at the end of the day, he realizes that like this is all wrong. I should be helping Superman, and he kind of does what he can to help save the day. Um, yeah, I thought this was fantastic. Like I love this film. If there was any film out of these four that I would want to watch again with you, Chris, because obviously we watch these separately, I'd want to put this film on. This is fun because it's cool. It's silly enough that you can have like a few drinks and laugh at it at the same
Yeah.
time, but there's some cool stuff in here. He freezes the top layer of the lake, picks it up,
I mean,
drops
like
it on a fire.
the physics of that are questionable, to say the least. This thin as a sheet, lake-sized
I
piece
mean,
of ice. Yeah.
I assume it was because of budget limitations, but in the final act of the film, we almost have like Superman versus missiles on a video game platform.
Yes, it turns into like an 8-bit yeah, visualization of what aiming a missile at Superman would look like. Yeah, it looks like an arcade game we never got to play.
I can't get over this film. I thought as soon as we'd finished one and two, I thought, okay, this is where it all goes downhill. This went
Okay.
slightly uphill for me. Okay.
Okay. Let's calm ourselves down here.
No man, I love this film. I like Lana Lang. I like everything between Clark Kent and Lana Lang. Really works for me.
I'm
It's
going to agree with that,
plot.
actually. I agree with the Lana Lang stuff. Even though it was potentially an afterthought of the movie, I really like the idea that I love returning to Smallville. Actually, I think we could have milked that a little bit more.
Mm,
Um, I, the idea of, not only does Lana Lang kind of symbolize a future for herself, but she also kind of symbolizes a potential. Could Christopher Reeve, could Superman, could Clark Kent exist in Smallville and it still be enough for him? And I thought that was really cool to kind of see him go back to his childhood, sort of, fitting in with the people that he grew up with
mm.
and, revisiting those ties. That was really, really cool.
And the
Um,
difference between like the hustle and bustle of the city and middle America in a way.
exactly.
I really like that. There's a good contrast there.
It opens the world up because we're starting to get into the territory before that where it feels like Metropolis is all of the world. We need to kind of go, stretch our legs a little bit more. Um, I will say I love Richard Pryor. I'm a big Richard Pryor fan. The guy just makes me laugh. I just have to look at his face and I laugh. He's incredible. I love Stir Crazy. Those Gene Wilder movies. You know, Brewster's Millions. He's great. I loved him like the first third of this movie, and you know, I think he is so good at doing that. Like I am completely clueless thing. But I'm getting away with it anyway. Uh, I do feel like he is misdirected for a good portion of the movie. I do feel like Richard, we don't know what to do in this scene. Can you like move your leg? Can you just do something kind of funny? Can you just riff?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
feels like we are hearing that behind the lens a lot, and you know, like he's making it work for the most part, but it feels like it's not really progressing anything a lot of the time. I do find the corporate big, the big three, the brother, the sister, and the Lorelai, he's the blonde ditz, but really she's secretly reading like Tolstoy or whatever like that.
Mm.
I find them all a little bit dull for me. I did find that stuff a little bit boring at times. I do love the skyscraper ski lodge. I mean, like, what's the point of that? It's just like this one hill that's 10 meters long, and he just goes up and down it all day.
Yeah.
I love
It does feel like they wanted Gene Hackman back as Lex Luthor to play that role. Like, it doesn't feel too dissimilar to that, but it was more kind of like this is greed and capitalism personified within a character. So I didn't mind that, but again, I don't remember their names. So
yeah, I think it's
like they're not memorable, but they play the part of what they're trying to resemble. I think that works for me.
Sure. It does work. And I think for me as well, although that sort of video gamey aspect that comes in the end, I do feel like that the climax of this movie is a little bit exhausting. I think I just found the whole thing a little bit exhausting as it went on. The first half, I was like, this is kind of funny. This is making me chuckle. And then it just kind of got weirder and weirder and a little bit more slack, you know. And I loved the Superman, and you know, I love the stuff going on with Clark. I thought that stuff was really great, but I just feel
again, his whole face changes when he's jerk Superman, right? Like, he doesn't look like Christopher Reeve.
I will say, like, you're so right. The subtle change of him is actually really fascinating, and he does that really well. And it's something that's a muscle we haven't really seen Reeve stretch up until this point, and he manages it really, really well. I think when we said earlier in the show that we remember parts of the movies from kids, it was that trash yard, you know, dump yard scene that I remembered as a kid. I thought that's an amazing set piece. I love
100%.
You know, when he throws him into the compactor, and we're actually watching this real like set like move and contort, and it looks really, you know, really something out of like Wall-E or something like that. It looks great.
It does look good.
That seems a lot of fun. I just was missing the tightness and the pacing that the second movie kind of gave me, where I was just kind of I was just having fun all the time. And I feel like this movie's a little bit too far into the late 70s kind of dad comedy stretch that it got a little bit knackering for me after a while. But that's me.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm glad it worked for you. I think if I watched this with you, we'd had a lot of fun, because there is a lot of like, what the fuck moments in this movie. So
this was the one I had the most fun with.
This movie has the most stuff going on. This is a lot of stuff in this movie,
and I think a lot of the stuff works. And again, I'm very like, some of the stuff I love most about superhero films is kind of like the duality of characters. You know, is Batman and Bruce Wayne, like, who is the mask? That kind of thing. That's such a great kind of question to throw into that mix. The idea that, like, if Peter Parker's having a good life, then Spider-Man's having a bad time, and if Spider-Man's having a good time, then Peter Parker's life is in the trash. And again here, the duality of Superman and Clark Kent. And I love that. Like, that kind of stuff really gets me. As one of the reasons I kind of love superhero films. And I think it really, really works in this film. I think they get Clark Kent in this film. more than
I
the
do
first
think it's the most interesting Reeve performance of the 4 movies.
film.
For sure. Yeah.
I think he gets to like show off more in like 1 with the very kind of small ways that he changes kind of his persona to become those different characters. Like I guess maybe there's not as much of that here, but he gets to have fun and be evil, quote quote, Superman.
And we get to see him be a little bit more. I think that Annette O'Toole, as Lana Lang, also because she is just a more tender character.
Mm.
She brings out a more tender side in Clark Kent and of course Reeve in that performance. And just seeing him kind of like, I just kind of felt I could see how a woman like that could fall in love with him a lot
Yes.
more this time around. He has that sort of paternal, sort of like fatherly, I could get on board with him at this time a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well you kind of warmed to her a little bit because Lois Lane loved Superman first before Clark Kent, and Lana Lang very much falls in love with Clark Kent before
That is always an issue
loving
with Lois,
Superman.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's an issue again with like other, like Mary Jane and stuff like that. Like that's the kind of way it works in the comics, isn't it? Like, or maybe not the comics so much, but in the Raimi films, like Mary Jane falls in love with Spider-Man before she falls in love with Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we go on to Superman 4?
Superman 4. Why do you
Superman
sound
4.
upset about talking about Quest?
The
The
Quest
only
for
one
Peace.
that has a subtitle.
Yeah, the Quest for Peace. So our producers, the Salkinds, they ended up after the kind of not making as much money with the third film and kind of the reputation of Superman slowly going downhill because I love Superman 3, whatever. Most people did not. So mid 1980s, they ended up selling the rights to Superman to Canon Films. So Canon, very much known for very low budget action films, kind of very silly ones. We've probably discussed a few in the past.
Yes.
So they only allocated about £17 million to Superman 4, which was roughly a quarter of the original budget. And the fourth film was directed by Sidney J. Furie and shot almost entirely in England. And it was kind of different places were used to kind of stand in for kind of New York and Metropolis streets and all kinds of stuff, including, very interestingly, a bus station in Milton Keynes that, that doubled for the United Nations set.
Of course.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. I've been to Milton Keynes.
And you didn't get the Metropolis vibes when you went there.
No, I didn't like it that much. So many roundabouts.
It's like a business town, isn't it? It's like a
like a very built
industrial,
built for purpose town or city. I don't really know Milton Keynes, but yeah, I just remember roundabout after roundabout after roundabout. But yeah, so this is very much kind of a more socially conscious story here. Christopher Reeve actually has a story by credit on the film. And the film, I guess, would have been around the Cold War. We're talking 1987. I don't know my years too much, but
no, we are this movie is definitely about the Cold War.
It's about the Cold War, and it's all about Superman's mission to kind of rid the world of nuclear weapons. He doesn't want to get too involved because there are rules behind how much he can get involved with human civilization. But we're on the verge of the whole world blowing themselves up with nuclear bombs. And he decides, I have the power to do something. I'm just going to steal all the nuclear weapons and throw them into the sun. And we have to kind of look into whether this is a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, I was like, oh, you throw these in what happens if you throw a nuclear bomb in the sun? I feel like that would not be good for the sun.
But I was thinking this. I assume Superman must know. He's a very smart guy. He must have known what he was doing.
I mean, I'm sure, but I'm like, I was thinking about it. It troubled me.
Isn't the sun one big nuclear?
I don't know, but he's got he throws every nuclear bomb on Earth at it at once.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He
I feel like
does.
I would fuck something up.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I, I know I'm questioning the science of this Superman film, but I feel like it would be okay. If there's any nuclear scientists out there who listen to the film angle, um,
Yeah.
yeah, call in, let us know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did. Like he could have just thrown it into like some trajectory where it would never collide with a planet or something, or some other universe, or maybe he knows that there's other universes out there that could sustain life, and he didn't want to threaten them. Maybe
Well,
it
yeah,
was
I
that.
guess he could have flown like so far away and just like chucked on an asteroid or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I
I
guess
don't
he
know.
just didn't want us to think about them anymore, didn't he? He just wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. We get Lois Lane back properly this time. We also get Lex Luthor back. Lex
Yeah.
Luthor is not happy that Superman's ridding this threat because he's capitalizing off of the threat of war. This is all very kind of stuff that's happening today.
Yep.
So he decides that he needs to create a threat that kind of gets everybody building nuclear weapons again, and he creates Nuclear Man. I can't exactly remember. He uses like a strand of his hair,
So
sends it to
yeah,
the sun.
Superman donated a strand of his hair to a museum, and the museum had used it to hold like some like 600-ton weight thing, just to kind of showcase how powerful it is. But like, I mean, it also annoyed me as well as like, surely Superman, like the power that your hair contains, or like surely that somebody's gonna like take that shit and do something with it.
Well, who are we to think that that's what would have happened?
I don't know. These movies just seem to like make anything happen if they want to make it happen. But yeah, it's exploited. It's exploited.
It's exploited. We create Nuclear Man. He's very boring as a.
He's like something out of Wham.
Yeah, he's very boring. Um,
Mark Pillow.
is that who plays him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's not the most interesting of villains. The special effects here as well are just subpar compared to everything else, and you can tell there's so much of a budget limitation. Like it's less now about like, wow, look at these special effects, and more like, look at these special effects. It's not so good.
Yeah, and the humor is way more Looney Tunes, but like a bad episode.
Mm.
Like I feel sorry for Gene Hackman in this movie a lot of the time. They give him like John Cryer from like Two and a Half Men fame, plays
Yeah,
his nephew, who is actually insufferable in this movie. I will say, like anytime that them two have to play off each other, I feel so sorry for Gene Hackman that he actually has to like share lines. But
yeah.
it's like it definitely is beneath him, this movie.
I
Um,
had to double take that. I thought it was Matthew Broderick for a minute. I was like, is that Matthew
they have that
Broderick?
same sort. I know you mean. I know you mean.
Yeah, I had to. I was like, it doesn't seem like he would be that old.
Yeah, he shows up in this ridiculous car, to rescue his uncle Lex, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the police in there.
pretty much. Think of the Seth Green Doctor Evil thing again,
Yeah,
but worse.
yeah. However, I will say, like the socially conscious stuff, I like the nuclear bomb stuff. I like, and then another story they have is they have a tabloid newspaper taking over the Daily Bugle.
Or Daily
And
Planet.
oh yes, how terrible of me!
It's
How
okay.
terrible!
It's their fault.
God damn you, comics stealing from each other. So they have a tabloid taking over the Daily Planet, and they are boosting these kind of sensationalist headlines. They are posting things which are mistruths,
Yeah,
and all this
that
kind of
actually
stuff.
is quite good. Yeah.
Ah, it all these issues we're having today, we were having back in the 80s. And, the Daily Planet is trying to take a stand, and we have to learn about like what is good journalism, what is ethical journalism. And like these kind of things really like I don't want to say they're 100% work because the film overall just doesn't come together in a particularly interesting way. But they're really trying things with that side, the political side of the stories. That they really do want to say something.
Mm.
It
It's
just
interesting.
it just kind of stutters out a little bit.
in my mind, like at least maybe some of those little nuggets of inspiration, I'd love to say would come from Reeve because I know he has a story credit in this movie.
Mm,
So let's pretend that those little nice ideas came from him at least, anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna say like apart from anything else, Alex, I'm just gonna say it. I turned the movie off. It was the last one I watched the other day. I turned it off and I literally said to the screen, "That was dog shit."
mm,
This movie is, I mean, at least it had the decency to be 89 minutes long. I
yeah,
am so glad because I was so bored. This
yeah.
movie's so boring.
Yeah, I thought there was a bit of promise at the start where I was like, "Oh, okay, it is kind of the same thing. We're doing the same thing here. It's not that bad, but it does turn into a bit of a slog
And the
by the
amnesia
end."
stuff with like with
Yeah, so
Lois.
they
The
bring back Lois Lane's memories for a split second, so Superman has this person he can talk to, and you think, "Oh, this is fantastic! Like, what a brilliant way to just be like, Lois, like, I need you right now. You're the only person I can talk to about these things.
Mhm.
But once I'm done, I'm gonna wipe your memory again." So stupid.
And
Keep
then
her that way.
the audacity they have to like recreate the first flight of the first movie with them, like the romantic flight, and
Mm,
it is just a terrible like recreation of that
yeah,
moment where she's like, you do not believe. I know, like, yes, the special effects are good for the time, but they're dated. But at least like you can kind of buy into the breaking of the fourth wall in those first couple of movies. And this one, when they're flying around, and you can so see like they are in a room, and Margot Kidder is just like flailing her arms and like pretending to look interested and everything around her. It is a shadow of itself, and it's so sad that this was the last one in the franchise. And that's like, I think that's the thing in general. This movie is all, everything that you look at, or every plot point, every character, every set dressing, it is just like, it's like an old man that kind of just he's putting on his old suit again, but he doesn't fit in it anymore, and it just feels a little bit sad.
yeah, yeah. And this film like completely killed the Superman franchise.
Hmm.
It returned in 2006 with Superman Returns, which was conceived as like a spiritual sequel to 1 and 2. They
Yeah, because he like
disregard 3 and
disappears
4.
for a few years and comes back or something. I think that was the
Yeah,
plot of that. Yeah,
yeah. And they're all, yeah, you have Kevin Spacey
as
playing.
Lex. Yeah.
Yeah, which he, like, if I remember rightly, he does a pretty good job of capturing the kind of character that Gene Hackman was playing, right? Like,
It's been years. I saw that in
been a while.
cinemas in 2006. You said 2006, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the last time I saw that movie. I was 10, but I
yeah,
remember liking it as a 10-year-old. So yeah, there
yeah.
you go.
But then came back again. I'm
Brian
guessing
Singer, wasn't it? Did that
Bryan
film?
Singer. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Eee. Eee, that did not age well.
Oh, dear, dear, dear.
Dear, oh dear. And then obviously, I think it was 2013. Zack Snyder came in to make Man of Steel after the
Sure.
kind of success of the Marvel films. DC wanted their own franchise, and we know how that went. And now we got James Gunn semi rebooting it. We'll see how it goes. Do you want to rank these films, Chris? It's what we came here
Let's
to do.
let's rank them. For me, it'll be pretty easy. I don't. You seem to be quite enthusiastic about a couple of these, so I think there might be a little slight displacement between us two, very slightly. We'll see.
Okay. Well, shall we go from worst to best?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. I think we're probably on the same page here, but my fourth film in this list would be Superman 4: A Quest for Peace.
Yeah, it is without a doubt the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, yeah. So much to love still, I think, in it, but it's a slog.
It's painful. I would say it's painful. I think you're a little bit kinder than me. I did not enjoy the experience of that movie one bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Number 3. So third on my list, I'm gonna put Superman 1.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we are going to be
Superman the
slightly different on
movie.
this then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so any reason, cuz I guess canonically in terms of like critical consensus, a lot of people would put that as number 1. I agree with you. It's not my favorite too.
I think it is a film that I do like, but I find this one a bit of a slog as well. even though it is much better made than A Quest for Peace. But it's just a film with so many different kind of genres and things it's trying to do, and it's juggling all these different kind of tonal pieces, and it just doesn't fully work for me. It's a little messy. It's a little bit too slow for me to really get into it. And if I was to put, I'm probably not putting 4 back on, but I have 1, 2, and 3. If I was to like rewatch any, like Superman would be the bottom of that list.
Okay.
What's your number 3?
Number 3 for me is number 3. I liked a good portion of this movie, but I feel that it got a little bit too unwieldy. I feel it kind of, it ran out of steam. It got a little bit exhausting, especially with the antagonists. I thought they were all just kind of like a little bit annoying by the end of it. And even Richard Pryor, his jokes were starting to run a little bit thin for me come the end of the movie. I do love all the Clark Kent stuff. I do think it's potentially some of the strongest stuff in the franchise. But it was a little, I was ready for it to be done by the end of the climax. So it's number 3 for me.
Okay.
It's okay. It's
okay. I'll breathe. To be fair, like, you're not alone on this. I don't know why I love 3 so much. Okay, my number 2, which is going to tell you exactly where 3 is going. My second favorite one of these is Superman 2.
Okay.
I can't help it, all right? I get that a lot of Superman 2 is better than Superman 3. The action, well, that's about it. The special effects, the action, all that kind of stuff, it works. It hits the ground running. It's a great, fun film. It is, like, I'm not saying it's much worse than 3 or anything like that. Uh-huh. It's almost there. It just doesn't get the character stuff over the line for me. It's like Clark Kent is kind of boring in this film. And he's, him and Lois, I love the kind of stuff where she's figuring it out. That stuff's all great. But they kind of drop the ball with him being like a human for a few hours. And I think there was so much more you could have done with that. And they really explore that dynamic more in 3. And that is what kind of is the heart of that film. And it should have been the heart of 2 as well, I think. But it isn't really. It's not really the heart of 2. So that's why 2 is my number 2. What's your number 2?
Okay, number 2 is 1978, the first Superman movie. For the reasons that it's not quite my number 1, and the one that is number 1 just has a little bit more of a developed version of what this movie is. I feel the first 20 minutes, the prologue, while interesting, is a little bit exhaustive in what the superhero and sci-fi genre is trying to actually get away from. But once we get into it, it's really cool. I think we get some of the best special effects in the whole franchise, even though it's the oldest film, as well as some really magical moments. I mentioned, I think that flight sequence is probably my favorite sequence in the whole franchise in general. And has a really cool climax. It has stakes, and it's really cool just to go back and see, like the foundation of pretty much every superhero backstory movie. So I enjoyed it on that level. So do we want to get into number 1?
Number ones. Well, I think I've said enough about Superman 3. I think everybody can see why I love it. It's silly. I get that, but I kind of was really charmed by some of the silliness. I kind of like seeing how Superman can use his powers in kind of like weird and wonderful ways. And Clark Kent is just, he is the super guy, really. Like Clark
super
Kent,
guy.
he is what makes Superman super, and the film really explores that and celebrates that, and everything it's looking at, all the kind of political stuff, just it works for me. I really like it, and Superman having to defeat a supercomputer at the end. And I get it.
A computer that literally wraps around people.
Yeah.
Like it's the Evil Dead.
I get it. If they made that now, if the sequel to this James Gunn Superman film was a random comedian being a kind of bumbly villain that accidentally creates an AI that Superman has to fight, you'd be like, this is
They would
trash.
never do it.
They would never do it. They would never do it. And, I get it. But it so works here, and it's so of the time. And what a fun way to go with it. I was charmed.
It is a great anomaly. Yeah. I think you talk a really good game. in terms of like all the emotionality behind it. I just wish I saw it as much as you did.
Maybe I watched a different film to you.
Look, the thing is, I think
didn't see it.
the thing is, I think I do see that stuff and I did recognize it, but there is also the rest of the movie as well. So maybe that's what kind of outbalanced it for me. So yeah, my number one is Superman 2. I do think that is the perfect balance of like what every other film in this franchise kind of goes, three goes a little bit too heavy in the comedy. I think one's a little bit too light on its feet, and four is just a mess. I think this one is like a good balance of all of those movies, where it finds a great middle ground in terms of, right, we're here for audience fun here. It's got that sensibility of an early 80s, action movie. All the action set pieces are fun. I don't think like any of them are cute or weird. They're just like, they're all got a comedic backbone to them, but they are so like, they're the best well-conceived set pieces, I think, in the franchise. I love our big main three villains, led by General Zod. I think they are just such fun chaos. I love the Lois and Clark Kent in Niagara Falls, disgusting honeymoon suite antics and everything. Yeah, I agree with you. The only stuff that it kind of slips on is just kind of like Lois and her coldness, and it doesn't give Reeves as much room to breathe in terms of like having an emotional backbone and kind of them two kind of meeting in the middle. So that stuff's a little bit weak, but the movie is just so fun. I think it's, out of all four of them, it's the one I would put on again and watch. So yeah, it's a pure entertainment factor thing for me.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, well that just means, Chris, that next time you're around mine, I'm strapping you down. I
will watch Superman 3 with you.
I need to tell you. I need to dissect every scene for you and tell you why this is great, and everybody else is wrong apart from me.
Oh my god! You know what? I do love, lives rent free in my mind this last week is Richard Pryor at the at his boss's mini bar, and the bar rotating around like it's a Pink Panther sequence, and he gets stuck behind the wall whilst his boss is spitting exposition at him. It's stupid, but it was funny.
It's a lot of fun. So there you go, guys. There's our rankings of the Christopher Reeve Superman films. So, Chris, we are mere days away from the reboot of the DCU. James Gunn, now the head of DC, coming in, making a Superman film. By the time this goes out, because we're recording on a Monday, I believe the embargo will have lifted for the reviews. However, there's been a few that have leaked from some bigger publications that are a little bit negative.
Was it just the one leak?
I think there's been two now.
Okay.
There has also been three. There's been a further one I read just before we jumped online.
Big publications, or
I don't know if it was. I don't know if this one was a big publication, but it was a positive review.
Okay.
But I think fans are scrambling a little bit. They're trying to find something because a lot of people have a lot of expectations on this film.
There's going to be people here hitting refresh on their computers every minute for the next couple of days. Yeah.
But all of that aside, what are your feelings going into this film? And for everybody, we will be reviewing this on the next episode of the Film Angle. We're going to be watching it. Well, I'm going to be watching it this weekend. Well, you're going to have to watch it this weekend, Chris, if we're reviewing it for the next episode of the Film Angle. But my tickets are booked.
I mean, I'm definitely there. I'm definitely, especially catching up on this little mini series that we kind of done today. I'm definitely so fascinated to see, what's kind of kept and what's kind of changed and what James Gunn is interested by when it comes to Superman. And I think it's a franchise and superhero in totality that there's just an innocence to that story and the source material that I would love to see it do well. And I would love to see some sort of like, it moved me, actually. I'd like to be moved by a Superman movie. And I think it could happen. Visually, I'm a little bit scared of how the movie looks. I've seen like the trailers a couple times, although the John Williams score repurposed seems really cool.
Yeah.
the whole movie looks like it's shot in the fish lens, and it's kind of like I don't know if I'm going to feel ill by the end of it.
It's very kinetic as well, isn't it? Like it's
very anime kaiju sort of stuff going on. Yeah,
a lot of movement, a lot of camera movements which feel unrealistic in a way. Like I don't always love that. Like a lot of blockbusters,
rate, soap opera sort of.
A lot of blockbusters do that where they'll have a very floaty camera. It's not something I love doing. And then you talk about kaijus. It was something that Guillermo del Toro did with Pacific Rim, where he was like, if you couldn't physically put the camera there, then like I'm not going to do the shot. Like if it doesn't look like it was on a crane or on a helicopter, like I'm not having it whizzing around like a drone. I might be wrong, but some of the trailers for the new film, I just feel like there's a lot of whizzing around. But I don't want to go into this negatively. Like there's a lot riding on this. I really like Superman.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it. I really like James Gunn. I don't think he's put a foot wrong a lot recently. Like his stuff with Marvel with the Guardians films is fantastic. Suicide Squad, I thought, was one of the best films from the DC over the last few years. Like his Suicide Squad. So. And I really like the Peacemaker TV show as well. Like, I think he's just good. I think he gets these characters, but I think there is a lot of pressure on him, a lot of responsibility, and I hope that he hasn't bitten off more than he can chew, because there seems to be a lot of characters in this film. And I mean, and this is a good thing. I couldn't tell you what the story is. That's a good thing. But another thing is, like, I don't know who the villain is in this film. Like, I don't know if it's Lex Luthor or if it's
could be like
an
Amazing Spider-Man 2 sort of situation.
Yeah, or is it? Or are we going like multiple villains, but like we're just seeing like a period of Superman's life? Maybe there's a bit of that in play. I don't know. I'm nervous because superhero films, like, we've all been fatigued by them. But as somebody who did love them so much, I don't want to see them fully disappear. But if Superman does not do well, and if it's not good, then it doesn't look good for superhero films, because if you can't get Superman right, and I appreciate he's a hard character, but if you can't get him right, then this new DCU is kind of dead on arrival, unfortunately.
Well, because he is DC. Yeah.
So there's a lot riding on it. I hope it's good. I really don't want it to be bad. I don't feel like overly like enthusiastic or excited for it, but I am very interested.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've been down this route before. You're right. Gunn has a really good track record, but he's not invincible. He's not an auteur.
No.
Like there is scope for him to make it, to make a mistake. So, but hopefully it's not going to be that case. We'd love to come back here and say, oh my goodness, did not exceed our expectations. So yeah, hold on tight, guys. We'll come back to you on that one, and we'll look forward to getting in depth with that one, and maybe bringing up some of the old Superman movies again, and finding some of those old nuggets in there.
They're a massive inspiration, so I'm glad that we've revisited them before watching this film. But yeah, I'm excited. Well, come back next week for our Superman review. We're really excited to see it and kind of talk about it already. I think whatever the case, it will bring some good discussions, I'm sure. If you're following along with our Sight and Sound greatest films of all time list, then the film next week that we'll be reviewing is the 9th greatest film of all time, apparently, Man with a Movie Camera. So
yeah. And we have both not seen this one. I haven't seen this one.
This is actually a blind spot. Cool. It's on the BFI player, so if you're playing along, you can watch that before next Wednesday.
Good to hear.
That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We do really appreciate it. And if you'd like to keep up to date with us, you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes. Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. But for now, it's goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.